Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Tomorrow is tax day, April 15, as you are aware. Tax man cometh tomorrow, April 15. Story here from CNS News. President Obama has proposed 442 tax hikes since taking office. That is our Fisher factoid of the day. We're going to start off with the Fisher factoid of the day. President Obama has proposed 442 tax hikes since taking office. These are formal proposals of taxes. This is according to Americans for Tax Reform and their analysis of Obama administration budgets for fiscal years 2010 through 2015. So 442 proposed tax increases from President Obama since he took office. No wonder that his approval rating, this is according to Breitbart.com, Gallup poll. According to Gallup poll, President Obama's approval rating has been under 50% for 290 days. So once again, that is sort of an ominous portent for the Democratic chances in 2014, because there's a strong correlation between a president's approval rating in September, and we've still got months to go before that point, of course, but there's a strong correlation between a president's approval rating in September and the election results in November. In other words, if a president's approval ratings, and this is the formula, this is the prognostication of those who do this for a living, that if President Obama's approval ratings are down in the low 40s, this is going to mean a swing to the Republicans of anywhere between 6 and 11 seats. The lower his numbers go, the better the chances for the Republican Party. That's just true. I mean, that tendency is true no matter which party is in power and which is out of power. If the president's approval ratings are low in September, think of President Bush in 2008, low approval ratings in 2008. 2008 was a catastrophe for the Republican Party. So that's just the way it works. And so this is not a positive, optimistic sign for the Democrats. His approval rating, according to Gallup today, just at 43%. Now, I want to talk about the 16th Amendment just for a second. And my point here is very simply that the 16th Amendment, again, this has to do with constitutional interpretation. And that's one of the things we do here. We focus on biblical interpretation. We want to interpret the Bible correctly, and we want to interpret the Constitution correctly. In fact, Jeff, open up your mic here for a second. I want to go back to something we were chatting about at the break. Speaking of Bible interpretation, now, because we want to interpret the scriptures accurately, and we were just looking at a verse in the Proverbs, whoever spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is diligent to discipline him. So you don't spank a child that needs it. It's actually a form of child abuse because it allows certain qualities of character to kind of take root and to grow in him that are going to be bad for him when he grows to adulthood. So, you know, the classic statement of this is he who spares the rod spoils the child. And Jeff, you told me one of your children has a kind of a novel interpretation of that particular
that
proverb.
Would be our youngest, Ryan. He interpreted that was supposed to be a command, that I was supposed to spare the rod and spoil the child.
So he interpreted that not as a statement, but as a command addressed to you as his loving father, just reminding you of the Bible standard here. Dad, it says right here, you're supposed to spare the rod. That is a command. And you were supposed to spoil the child. What are you doing disciplining me?
He thought I was doing it all wrong.
All right, Jeff, thanks. It's just intriguing how we just have this tendency, to interpret the scripture so that it says the things that we want it to say rather than what it actually says. Now, back to the 16th Amendment. Again, our standard is the Constitution either means what the framers, what the founders, what the shapers of the Constitution meant for it to say, or it can mean anything that you want. So that becomes important in going back and looking at the 16th Amendment and the provisions in the 16th Amendment. I'm just grabbing it right here. Let me grab my Constitution. Remember, always carry with me into the studio a copy of the Bible and the Constitution. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived, without apportionment among the several states and without regard to any census or enumeration. So that's the 16th Amendment. Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived. And you think, well, that's as clear as it can be. Incomes from whatever source derived. Now, here is the key question. What does the word income mean? More importantly, what did it mean at the time that the 16th Amendment was enacted into law in 1913? You know, just to look at what a monstrosity this thing has become, I mentioned that earlier, the current tax code right now is 4 million words long. That's 4 times longer than the collected works of Shakespeare, and it's 6 times longer than the Bible. The Bible, the tax code between 4 to 5 million words long. The Bible is about 700 to 800,000 words. So it's 5, 6, 7 times longer than the Bible. It takes 25 volumes to contain the tax code, takes up 9 feet of shelf space, and it takes us 6 billion hours to comply with the filing requirements. That's 8,758 lifetimes. And that's not in dog years, that's in people years, 8,758 lifetimes. Now, here's the question. So you got to ask yourself the question. The American people voted for this thing. The American people voted for the income tax, for the 16th Amendment. They voted for a tax on income. Now, how in the world did the proponents of the 16th Amendment get us to vote for something that was going to allow the government to stick its hands in our wallets? What kind of insane people would vote for something that was giving the federal government the right to stick its greedy, grubby hands into the pockets of the working man? Well, the answer is very clear. That's not what they were voting for. And the people that were proponents of the 16th Amendment got us to vote for it by lying to us. They lied through their teeth. They told us that income meant one thing when they convinced us to vote for the 16th Amendment. Then they changed its definition when it went into effect, and they nailed us all to the wall. Now, the American people at the time, remember, this is back 1909, 1910, 1913. The American people, that's us, we were led to believe that the income, quote, end quote, that would be taxed under this amendment was what we today call unearned income. And I'm going to try to set a guard on my lips and be a wise man here and exercise some restraint, because I could be a rocket to the moon on this issue if I unbridled myself. So we were led to believe that income that would be taxed under the 16th Amendment would be what we call today unearned income. We have earned income today, that's wages and salaries, and unearned income, that's income that's not directly tied to the labor we do on each individual day. Now that means profits from investments, dividends, interest, capital gains, net income from business and corporate earnings, the tax on the profit of businesses and corporations. The term income did not apply to wages and salaries. That was considered earned income, income received from labor, but it was not considered unearned income, which was the money that fat cats made from investments and their corporations. So we need to be clear, what was the target of the 16th Amendment was what we today call unearned income. Now, the only people that had unearned income, this is corporate profit, business investment return, dividend return, the only people that had unearned income in 1913 were the top 1%. And so what the American people were told is, look, this is a soak the rich tax. We are going after those greedy corporate fat cats, that top 1%. They're balancing their books on the backs of the poor, and we've had it with that. We're going to tax those fat cats. We're going to get money that they owe the system, and we're going to make this an even playing field. That's how it was sold, as a soak the rich tax on the 1%. That was the whole idea. We are going to soak the rich. We are going to tax the top 1% and make them pay, quote, their fair share. Now, remember that prior to the 16th Amendment, the only source of income that the federal government had was from tariffs that were collected on imported goods. That was the sole source of funding, virtually, for the federal government. So somebody, a European manufacturer, wants to sell his stuff, sell his shoes in the United States. Well, we would impose a tariff on him when he brought his goods into the country. So for the privilege of selling his stuff in America, he had to pay a tariff. That was the price of admission to the American market. Fine, that money goes straight to the federal government. Now, what was happening then is, let's say you impose a 5% tariff on shoes. So whatever the shoe costs to make in Europe, you're going to tack 5% on that, and we're going to collect that from the manufacturer. Now, what's he has to do? What does he have to do if he's going to make money when he brings his goods into the United States? He's got to raise its price by 5% in order to make a profit. Now, it didn't take long for American manufacturers to realize they had a float here. Look, if it costs this European guy the same amount of money to make shoes as it costs us, he's got to pay a premium of 5% to sell his goods. So his goods, he's going to be selling for 5% more than it cost him to make. Now, that means we can sell it for 4% more than it costs us to make, and we can still undercut him. We can still underbid him. We can still outcompete him. So they were charging more for their goods than they otherwise could have charged because of the tariff that was being imposed on foreign manufacturers. So who was picking up this tab? Who was paying that extra 4%? That was you and me. That was American consumers. We're the ones that are buying shoes. So we're paying a bonus of 4% that's going right into the money of the corporate fat cats, and they don't pay any taxes at all. They have no taxes at all that they are paying. And so the idea was, look, they are riding on the backs of ordinary, hardworking American people. We got to bring that to an end. So that was the whole idea. We are going to tax corporate profits. That's what the 16th Amendment was all about. We're going to tax corporate profits. Whatever profit they make, we're going to impose a tax on that because they are not paying their fair share. Then, after the 16th Amendment is passed as a soak the rich tax, a soak the 1%, we're going to nail the fat cats. We're going to go get them. We're going to nail the fat cats. This is a tax on the top 1%, so they pay their fair share. How many times have we heard that same bilge today? I mean, President Obama, 442 times proposing tax increases. I would be willing to bet if you look, every one of those was a soak the rich tax. We got to have everybody paying their fair share. So then, when the 16th Amendment is passed, they change the definition of income and say, oh no, now that includes salaries and wages, and now you and I are stuck with the tab. Focal Point, AFR Talk.